Yeah. Hey, everybody, it's Keith Carter. I'm really glad to be able to talk with you. I wanted to just share with you about what does this mean that this significant challenge, dismal economic impact of having a virus attack and really work disaster upon our supply chains, upon the way we live our normal lives, etc. And we've heard a couple of interesting topics here. We were able to hear about disaster recovery. We got to hear really insightful thoughts on the HR side, where we need to maybe be a bit more resilient and such as well. We need to ask ourselves some questions. Are we ready? And if not, how do we need to change? And we can't do this alone. I really liked Uli's slide right at the beginning. We have to stay connected, and that's the importance of the ecosystem. So I wanted to share with you today some thoughts on love, good deeds, and encouraging others. This is the fundamental aspect of life that we need to be involved with because nothing else really matters. We just heard from Alan about the culture and such, and this is where if we can establish a culture of love, good deeds, and encouraging others, no matter what type of disaster comes along, we're going to be there to work together, whether at our office or across the world like we are right now. And it's raining outside. People make excuses. Wow, I can't play, I can't work. But these people right on the screen didn't make any excuse. They said, we're gonna go out, we're gonna do our best on the rugby field. So how can we sit back and say, wow, there's a lion outside, there's a disaster, I can't possibly work anymore? Impossible. We can do this. And so we ended up doing a class that we should have gone up to Hanoi in Vietnam. And these folks joined us virtually. A class of 30 people. They are offline, right? All in a classroom. Myself and Shashank, who's also on this call today with us, here in Singapore, we were training them on Power BI and some other things. And you can see their faces, you can see the engagement. It's really possible to still do great education, but with a mixture of online and offline. What do we need to do? No matter what, there's ground truths. There's some key points. You know, watching a James Bond movie like 007, you know, he starts off on a chase going down a mountain and all the enemies are attacking, you know, or it's in a snow mountain and they're skiing across and snowmobiles are jumping over trees. It's a good movie and it's always been good because you grab your audience. No matter how you want to teach or have a conference call or what have you, any format, any way, you have to start off with strong and meaningful points. Power of three. Humans are very funny. We learn ABC, 1, 2, 3. We're in the habit of just 3 things. That we can remember. Once we start to 4, 5, 6, we forget even what the first was. So the 3 key points are critical. And then play on emotions. People remember their feelings much more than all the facts and information that comes across. I often am sad because after 3 hours of lecture, I know my students are only going to remember maybe 10% of what I say. Some of them are feverishly writing, others are feverishly WeChatting, but I know that no matter what, only 10%. And so I have to give them tests and assessments and projects to increase that retention. But I also try to make sure that we connect it with some personal or something that will drive their feelings. So let's look at this, summarizing what's the key point, looping back to the beginning, and then we have to ask the audience to work. I wish I could ask all of you to do some work today. Maybe I should, but we'll come to that later. George Bush, what is this? Why bring Jeb Bush, rather? Why bring him into the picture? I wanted to be able to share with you a little bit about what not to do. And because the US election is coming up soon, it's quite timely still because our dear friend, or however you might term him, is also involved in these debates with Jeb Bush. Uli, these slides are going to be available to them later, yes. Right? Okay, yes. Great. So I'm not sure how the fidelity is going to be on this. We'll try it out, but then no matter what, you'll have access to these slides and you can kind of hear what Jeb went through on the stage with another very dynamic person.
And you can't just tell Congress, you're fired, and go to commercial break. Look, Jeb is a nice guy. He's a stiff, okay? He's a nice guy. He doesn't have a chance, all right? He ought to do what Walker did. Walker saw... drop out? Oh, absolutely. He's no chance.
This is a tough business to run for
I know.
president.
You're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is
real tough.
You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the
Let's see,
presidency.
I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so
Doesn't
far
matter.
I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
So far I'm doing better. You know, you started off over here, Jeb. You're moving over further and further. Pretty soon you're going to be off the end.
This is a real story here in New Hampshire. I can promise you the best way to show respect outside of rebuilding our military, two men and women in uniform, is to fix that mess as fast as I can. That's it. Thank you. They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
Governor, thank you very much for joining us today. I believe your schedule has a hard stop.
So here's my pledge to you. I will be a commander-in-chief that will have the back of the military. I won't trash talk. I won't be a divider-in-chief or an agitator-in-chief. I won't be out there blowhard, talking a big game without backing it up. I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
Okay, so don't ask your audience to say, please clap it, of course, as well. So this is being able to see what Jeb was trying to do. He was trying to make sure to get his audience connected, but he couldn't, because you have to say whatever you want to with passion. Make sure it's as hot as possible. I share some of my 9 techniques in terms of public speaking. And when you bring it into even a web conference, you still need to do the same thing. As much as possible, these are the top 3 that I keep and focus on. There's more, but let's go past them for now. And finally, I want to wrap around with the key points of a presentation: starting strong, power of 3, and playing on emotion. When you're doing this in this new environment, we need to be able to have a blend of online and offline where we can connect in the technology, and thanks to Uli and the whole Martians team for bringing this together, all of us in the room and all of you out there somewhere, and yet we can still communicate and collaborate together. You should connect with an ecosystem. A lot of banks and others are trying to create apps and tools on their own apps. This is not the way to go anymore. Just like with Zoom, don't try to make our own web conferencing tool. Let's glom on, use YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, etc. Things that are already there, not creating our own user interface. And I'd be glad to talk with you more about what that means for your applications or your functions or systems that you're trying to put together. Don't create your own app. There's plenty of apps out there that are billions of users downloaded. How do you incorporate your functionality into those? And then go digital. Anything that requires someone to come in and manually do something anymore isn't appropriate at a time like this, in these crises like right now. And we've seen 3 of them. Jakarta, floods, December. Manila, volcano. Couldn't fly into Manila in January. And now you can't fly to major places in the world, and it's February. Everything needs to be digital. When are you going to be a part of making that happen? And so let us consider how we spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together like this, as some are in the habit of doing, but rather encouraging one another. Love, good deeds, and encouraging others. Thanks everyone for listening. Hope you make a great time of encouraging others to do and get together and keep working during this time of crisis. Thanks again, Willie, for organizing.